Now, of course, what would a news day be without a presidential tweet on the Mueller investigation? And today, the president gave us a whopper, reminding us who the scoundrels really are, tweeting, "This is an illegally brought rigged witch hunt run by people who are totally corrupt and or conflicted. And it was started and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. Phony dossier, FISA disgrace, and so many lying and dishonest people already fired. 17 angry Dems. Stay tuned." Should the president stay on the offensive or be a little bit more low-key as we've been promised? Let's go to tonight's panel from townhall.com, where she serves as editor. Also a Fox News contributor, Katie Pavlich is here, along with her co-worker from townhall.com, where he's a political editor and co-host of Benson and Harf on Fox News Radio, Guy Benson, and Reason Magazine Editor-At-Large and Fifth Column podcast host, Matt Welch is here. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Hi. This is such an exquisite, smart panel. We have to save plenty of time and, of course, get right into it. So what is the president doing right here, and what is he blowing?
I don't know what he's blowing per se. I think that Alan Dershowitz is right. A lot of this is happening in the public arena. And in fact, it's sort of one-sided, right? It's all Giuliani, it's the president. Mueller doesn't have a really big public face here. And they're both engaged in a public negotiation, because think about it. What is the moment that people don't really want to see? They don't want to see, does a subpoena request go to the Supreme Court? Yeah. This is the place where constitutional crisis lives. You kind of don't want to do that. So they're both dancing around each other, trying to figure out, is there ever going to be a negotiated interview?
It's really
and politics is part of that.
Yeah, but I mean, we have been brought to the brink of constitutional crises several times in this modern era. You know, first with Richard Nixon, and again with Bill Clinton, and then with the 2000 presidential election, and now here. So, you know, what would happen if there were, in fact, a subpoena issued and it went to the Supreme Court? Is that why Brett Kavanaugh is such an attractive choice to the president, because he's talked so much about executive deference?
I don't think so, because I don't think we're going to get to that point. We might, and our institutions will be again tested, and I think they would again endure if it got all the way to that point. I just think, for now, what Giuliani appears to be doing is exactly what we heard from Professor Dershowitz there, which is they want to optically look open to cooperating. I think President Trump, in his gut, would love to talk to Bob Mueller, because he thinks that he is not guilty of the central charge of collusion, and he wants to sort of show the world, I'm not afraid of this guy.
Right. And I think if it were a one-question interview that were televised, and Bob Mueller said, "Are you guilty of collusion?" and the president could just respond to that emphatically.
Right. 20 minutes later, he'd be talking about his electoral college total. Yeah. But
Pocahontas.
Right. He'd be all over it, just cutting back to Bob Mueller stone-faced the entire time.
The mean, angry Democrats as well.
But I do agree, all 17. They're all very
all
angry.
17 of them.
But I think Dershowitz was right. What Rudy and company are trying to do is seeming like the reasonable ones. We're willing, with a few exceptions, to do this thing. And if they say no, hey, we tried, but we're at an impasse, it's their fault. But we're not afraid of anything except.
But it's really, I want to bring Katie in here, because it's really interesting, because it is a PR battle, but you're only hearing from one side.
Right.
You know, could you imagine if Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao were going to fight, and Manny Pacquiao didn't say a thing leading up to fight week? And that's essentially what it is, because the president and his team, they have been very vocal. Yeah. And, you know, they are certainly maneuvering and posturing and saying, we've given millions of pages of documents. They've interviewed so many people. Whatever they've laid out, we've given them. So how does the Mueller team counter that?
Well, the White House is certainly taking that to their advantage, because they know, based on legal professionalism, the Mueller team is not going to comment or respond to all of the attacks that are happening on the attorneys that are working on the special counsel or on Robert Mueller himself. Their strategy is to stay focused, to be professional, so that when they do go into a court of law or issue any kind of indictment, whether it has nothing to do with the collusion aspect of it or not, that they have credibility as legal professionals, instead of getting buried in the politics, which they're already being accused of based on their ties to the Clinton campaign, the Clinton victory party on election night. But if you look at the strategy, too, coming from the White House, Giuliani's out there saying one thing on this side and one thing on the other side. And I think he's out there, too, to confuse people, because special counsel can't respond. And if you look at what they're saying, the president will not answer. It comes down to the constitutionality of what his job is as president. You're not going to ask about why he fired James Comey. He has the presidential authority to fire James Comey. You're also not going to ask about private conversations, a.k.a. executive privilege, between the president and other members of his cabinet or his staff on Michael Flynn. So those come down to issues of what the president's job is.
Yes, but it almost looks like, I understand that, and you make a great case for that, but it looks to, especially independents on the outside, that they've got something to hide.
Here's the problem. They're trying to appear to seem reasonable, and then it's witch hunts and uranium one and God knows what else. That doesn't look like a reasonable thing to anybody except for Republicans or supporters of Donald Trump. And here's where that comes into a problem. There's an election in November. The political climate in which a lot of this is going to play out is going to change. The calculus is going to change. Control of Capitol Hill might change in November, and then that becomes more of a millstone as opposed to something that they can play successfully.
Now, we kind of know what the parameters are of this investigation, but I think there are areas where they're so broad. And, that's the thing. Like, there's a shark swimming around somewhere.
Right.
But it's pitch black.
And we don't know how it really began, which I think is a very important, relevant question that we've speculated about. And the Trump team says it's illegitimate. Other people, including some Republicans, say no, it's completely legitimate. But those of us who haven't seen all of the unredacted information, we're just guessing here. I think another point that, to your question, that Dershowitz made was sort of about the tricky terrain for Trump being that meeting at Trump Tower. And that's why I was just maybe not flabbergasted, because this is how he rolls, but the fact that the president was tweeting last week with a new explanation of what that meeting was about back during the campaign, it's like that is the one thing you should absolutely not be tweeting about, especially if it's not just a tweet reiterating your official story, as opposed to changing the official story.
No, but it's really interesting, because so many people who want to bring down the president, they say, "Ha, this is it, Stormy Daniels, this is it."
That chapter.
The Wolf book, Michael Wolff, this is it, Fire and Fury. This is going to end his presidency.
No, it's whack-a-mole.
I just think there's a lot, as you said, that we just don't know. And the special counsel has been very quiet. But the one thing that they have come out and publicly said is that there's been a lot of misinformation in the press about what they're doing, who they're looking at, what
that
kind of
is the one
indictments that
thing
they're
they've
seeking.
said.
So, there is a lot of stuff.
The only thing he didn't say was #fake news. But
he could have.
He did not say you are very fake news on a T-shirt that is now being not sold at the news.
No, I'm so disappointed in them.